What is going on, everyone? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and we finished session one of the big Heritage comic auction for that complete DC collection, the Christine Farrell complete DC collection. So, this is the one that I made a video a few days ago where I said I priced all 481 comic books that are in this auction because I wanted to see, could the comic market continue to absorb these big auctions? And usually when I'm pricing books out for one of these big auctions, I don't have the time to price the volume of books that are in this. But this one was a little more consolidated. 481 books, still a lot, but it was something that I felt like I could handle. And so priced them all out, session one, session two. I put out that video where I gave my estimates. So my estimate for the complete auction was $4,189,150. That's for all 481 books, not including the 10 pieces of original art that were at the beginning. I had $3,332,000 for session one and $857,150 for session two. So we have now completed session one. And what was the total for session one? It beat my estimates by about 17%. The total sales were $3,884,556 for the comics. Then there was another $313,000 in original art. So original art also did really well, but at least for session one, so far, there was no problem with handling this volume of high-end books. Now, I've talked about that quite a bit, where these big auctions, these high-end auctions, there does not seem to be a shortage of people that are interested in purchasing this level of comic book, that have the money available and are open and willing to bid on these books. And we had three big auctions leading into this, one from Heritage, one from Comic Link, one from Comic Connect. And from what I saw, those all looked very strong. This continued with that strength. Now, I'm going to do a follow-up video after session two is completed, and we'll see how session two performs as well. But at least with session one, just the high-level 50,000-foot view beat my estimates overall by 17%. Then when we start looking at the individual books, and we'll talk about some of those individual books, which ones actually went high, which ones went low, but out of those books, 64% of them beat my estimates. That is often around what I see with Golden Age. Golden Age, I tend to see, I've seen a stronger market in Golden Age for the last 4 years, ever since I've been tracking it. I typically see between 60 and 65% of those books beating my estimates. There's a lot of strength there. And now the other side to that is that also means 36% of them went below my estimates. So it means there are always deals too. There are always opportunities to pick up books for, what I perceive as good value that go underneath my estimates. Now, the big difference that I saw in this auction, in this session, I'll say, was that when there were outsized sales, like sales that were very, very strong, there were a lot of them. And so what I mean there is that the other thing that I track is the percentage of sales that beat my estimates by 20% and the percentage of sales that fail to hit my estimates by 20% or more. And 40% of the books beat my estimates by 20% or more. When people wanted books, they were bidding on them strong. And I think a big part of that was probably the large percentage of white page books. We'll get into that. Also, the large percentage of top of census books, mile high pedigree type books, that type of thing. Those books were commanding very serious numbers. Now, on the lower end, only 13% went 20% or more below. But it also means that there were books out there that you had that opportunity in there to maybe pick up some books for some pretty good steals. So I always say that in every auction, there's always big sales, there's always deals, but I like to look at overall, how did things perform? And this first session, very, very solid. Now with that, let's start talking about some of these books. Now we've got the Action Comics one up here. Talked about this one in my prior video as well. This one went for $324,000. Now, to me, this actually felt like an underperformance. For the first comic book that was in this auction, this actually underperformed. I had this going for $375,000. I mean, we had a 0.5 unrestored, incomplete copy that was missing the back cover that was wrecked, that sold for like 402,000, something like that. So that's an example of just how unrestored versus restored values really can, there can be some pretty big differences there. Now, this book was trimmed. I was talking with someone and they didn't, care for how the top of the top edge looked, with this fading. I think it looks fine. I mean, otherwise the colors are pretty incredible on this copy. So I thought this was a pretty solid looking book, but started off with an underperformance. However, right after that, we went straight into Action Comics #2 and $26,400 for this restored copy. I had this book, my estimate was $18,000, beat my estimate by 47%. You do not see this book come up for sale very often, and there was definitely a pretty significant demand for it. I mean, this one was trimmed too. When we take a look at the notes here, bottom edge trimmed, color touch, pieces added, tear seals, reinforced, interior lightened. Same level of restoration, moderate A3 as the Action 1, but this one definitely had some more interest to it. Now, a lot of these early actions did very well. One of them did underperform, in my opinion. I thought about bidding on this book because I was just like, how often do you see this? And it felt like it was going low. It was the Action Comics 3. Now, there's some writing on the cover, but it's a 6.0 white pages copy. It's 1938, third appearance of Superman. Went for $31,200. I had it going for $37,000. 16% below my estimate. Not like it's a huge underperformer, but a white page copy as well. I thought that I was expecting this one to do a little bit better, but we started getting some big sales after this one. It was just strong sale after strong sale with the early Action Comics. Action Comics 4 going for $31,200, beat my estimate by 25%. Action Comics 5 going for $6,000, beat my estimate by 30%. Then we had Action Comics, and I'm not going to cover everything, but just some of these big significant ones. Action Comics #6, a 3.5, slightly brittle pages. I usually see page quality issues like this not perform very well on Heritage. I had this one going for $6,300, went for $9,000, 43% over my estimate. Let's just jump over to GPA. You can see here a 5.0 sold last year for $8,400. A 1.8 sold for $3,800. This was a 3.5 slightly brittle that sold for $9,000. This was a big sale for this book. This is the first appearance of Jimmy Olsen. It's a significant key, but it's got the gorilla cover. It's not a ton of demand anymore for the gorilla covers, but this was a strong sale for this book. And based on these prior sales, it shows that. Now, we had a 4.0 go for $7,800 back in 2021. A 3.5 has never sold before, but regardless, in my opinion, very significant, strong sale for this one. Now, one of the big early outstanding sales was this one right here, Action Comics #8. This is an 8.0. This is a single highest graded copy. And I feel like this is one of the books that set the tone for a lot of those high grade copies. You can see 1 and 8.0, none higher. Action Comics #8, $84,000. I had it going for $30,000. Just blew away anything that I thought that this book would be able to achieve. It wasn't a white pages copy or anything off white pages, just that single highest graded. Like this to me set the tone for a lot of the future bidding in this auction. It just felt like there are definitely people here that were ready to pay to get, like I said, like white page copies and those highest graded copies. The Edgar Church books did just outstanding. Some huge, incredible sales for those Edgar Church copies of these of these comics. So really impressive sales going on here. Now let's start talking about some of the little bit later Action Comics. We start to get to some of those Superman covers, because like I said, it was just pretty consistently strong sales. Now, obviously there were what I'll call deals sprinkled in throughout here. We'll talk about some of those too. But here's another one of the really significant, just a big sale in this auction was Action Comics number 24, 7.5 white pages. Here we got one of these white page copies sold for $9,000. I had this going for $4,000. So beat my estimate by 125%. Just a really significant sale for this book. And like I said, this is the type of thing that I was seeing, just setting the tone for some of those page quality, like the high page quality books, going for some pretty good prices. Now, there were occasionally the ones that went on the lower side, but a lot of them had some very strong sales. Another one, and actually we're going to just jump one issue earlier. This was a significant book. This is one of the featured books, labeled as a featured book. First appearance of Lex Luthor, an 8.0 white page copy. I had this one going for $55,000, went for $84,000. I mean, just people were out here bidding and they wanted these significant books, and that page quality really played a significant role in some of these big numbers that we saw out here. So that's a lot of the Action Comics. Another one, actually, I figured I'd talk about because it's one of my favorite covers that's in the Action Comics run. It's Action Comics number 61. I picked up a copy of this recently. Mine is like a 1.5 or a 1.0, much lower grade copy than this one. This is a 9.0 white pages, went for $22,800. This was a book that I had going for $8,500. Prior record, $3,450, $22,800. I mean, yeah, colors are incredible on it, but just another example of these high grade white page copies were getting a lot of attention in this auction. All right, now let's move on. Move on out of Action Comics. Let's start checking out. There's some of the other big keys that sold in this auction. We had the Adventure Comics number 40, first appearance of Sandman. A 4.0 restored copy went for $19,200. I had it going for $16,000, about 20% over my estimate. A reasonable price range, for this book. Then a few issues later, we had first appearance of Crypto. This one actually, to me, was a little bit of a lower sale. I had this one going for $6,500. Prior record was $6,800. Went for $5,640. I thought maybe with that news that we had recently about Crypto being in the Superman movie, maybe this one would get some spikes here, but went for 13% below my estimate. Not anything crazy, right around what I would expect it to go for. But yeah, definitely one that I thought was going to maybe have an outsized performance and just went a little bit on the lower side. Now, another big book that came up right after this, went for almost exactly my estimate on it, was All American Comics number 16, first appearance of Green Lantern. Now, the interesting thing with this one was that if you look at the restoration, so it's A3, but it's color touch, pieces added, tear seals, and reinforced. All things that potentially could be undone if someone wanted to try to get it back to a blue label. You don't have to. I mean, I don't know what that would do to the overall visual appeal of the book, but that's one of those things that could potentially be done with this one. I had it going for $50,000, went for $50,400. So right in line with what I was expecting this copy to sell for. Now, another really cool book that went for almost exactly what I thought it would go for was that first appearance of Solomon Grundy, a 6.5, beautiful copy of this book. Just such a cool cover. I really like this one. I had this book going for $22,000, went for $21,600. So 2% below my estimate. One of those things where it's as close as you can hope to be. So that's what I say. Like, I like talking about the ones where it's a big outsized sale or, a big deal maybe on that book, but a fair number of the books go around what I think they're going to. And this is an example of that. I just want to show this book because I think this is a really cool book and just an incredible presenting copy of it as well. Nice page quality too, off white to white pages. Now, the next one that had a pretty significant strong sale was All Flash number 1. So this is an 8.5, and the bidding on this one just kept going. I thought it was going to stop, and it just kept getting more bids and more bids, and it was dragging out. It's like people kept waiting to the last minute, it seemed, to bid. I had it going for 10,000. Prior record was 12,000, went for 18,000. I mean, I don't know if this has anything to do with James Gunn, maybe people thinking about Flash characters showing up more in movies, that kind of thing, but yeah, 18,000 for an 8.5 off-white to white pages. Definitely, to me, a very significant sale for that book. Now, let's start jumping down to some of the Batman books that were in here. Now, unfortunately, there was no Batman #1, but there was a Batman #2. So it was a restored copy. And this was another one that I feel like the bidding was strong on this one because of the potential that this book has. So again, if we look at the label here, small amount of color touch on cover, cover reinforced A1. So this is one of those books that very likely, I would imagine someone might be looking to try to get this book back to a blue label copy. And so this one I had going for 6,500, went for 8,700, but I'm still not shocked by that or anything. I mean, this one beat my estimate by 34%. But if we go and take a look at Batman #2, it's just a question of how much is that restoration removal going to hurt the value of the book. And it's with an A-level restoration, it's very hard to tell from here, like where the color touch is. I believe the note said that the color touch was along the spine and maybe the reinforcement was along the spine as well. But if we take a look at unrestored copies, I mean, obviously this is a 7.0. If this was a 7.0 here, I mean, probably a $30,000 book, $25,000 book. But when you start removing the restoration, if it goes down to a 3.5, 9,000, 2.5, maybe 5, 6,000, if it holds something like a 5 or a 5.5, I mean, it's a $14,000 book. Like that's why I could see someone being very willing to take that type of risk. I just don't know exactly what that restoration removal is going to do to it. And so there's that gambling side of it there with this book. But that's why the price doesn't really surprise me, but it is above what my safety margin would have been on this book for what that restoration removal might have done to the potential value. But there were a ton of the early Batman books that came up for sale here, but a lot of them went right around what I thought. We had a Batman #3. I had it going for 9,500, went for 10,800, so 14% over my estimate. This is a light tan pages. So I mean, I know sometimes people think that the page quality like really affects things. Now, white pages does tend to get that boost, but once you get outside of white pages, it's not as big of an impact as I think a lot of people expect it to be. But let's move on to the next one. Then we had Batman #6. This is a 7.5. I had it going for 6,200, went for 6,600. And we had a nice copy of Batman #7. I had this one going for 7,000, went for 6,060, 13% below my estimate. I mean, when you're within 10, 15% at books like this that don't sell all that often, I consider that generally pretty close. And we had a copy of issue #8 in a 7.0. I had this one going for 5,500, went for 5,280. So kind of get my point here is that a lot of these ones, they went around what I thought they would. Now, one that had a very standout sale, in my opinion, was issue #10. Here we had an 8.0 white pages copy again. So there's that, there's that page quality thing, white pages copy. I had it going for 4,500, went for $10,800. So if we jump to issue #10, and I mean, yeah, it's an 8.0. It's a nice book, but we've had the prices dropping on this book. Like you can see here, and that's kind of why I made the estimate I did. I mean, yeah, I know the last sale during the comic boom was 5,500, but look at like the 7.5. It's kind of been trending down, 6.5 trending down, 4.0 trending down. And so that's kind of where I was leading with that. But this book sold for 10,800, sold for more than the last 8.5. This was a big standout sale for this book, and is probably the page quality that played a significant role in that price. Now let's start moving on to some Detective Comics. So next one, this is one that I feel like I should have bid on this book. Like this felt like one of the the steals of the auction, this was Detective Comics number 2. Now, there's no number 1 that was in this auction. Detective Comics number 2, 4.5. This one, again, this was light tan pages. This one felt like this was just a total steal. This I had going for $30,000, went for $15,600. I mean, let's go look up Detective Comics number 2. It's not like these books sell very often, but I mean, this is number 2. This is a rare book. This is a universal copy. And if we look at a 1.8 went for $8,000, a 4.0 went for $33,600, 5.0 went for $32,400. This went for half of what these books sold for. I mean, this to me was a pretty low sale. Now, yeah, we had the 7.0 for $27,000. Were these two maybe on the high side? I don't know. Or was this one just a total steal? I think this was a total steal. This is a great looking copy of this book, but that's my take on it. I think whoever got this one picked up a just incredible deal on Detective Comics number 2. Now, as we go through, there were tons of early Detective Comics. The one I'm just going to talk about that was a big standout sale in these pre-Batman techs. Well, maybe I'll talk about 2 of them, but one big one was the Mile High copy. And you never know what these Mile High copies are going to do. There is a lot of demand for them. They're often top of census. And I believe this one is, 1 in 9 to none higher. And so this went for $78,000. I had it going for $50,000, but in my little like notes spreadsheet, I had it bolded where I was just like, this could go for a lot more. And so I'm not shocked it went for a lot more, but solid sale, 56% above my estimate. I mean, 78,000, top of census, 9.2 Detective Comics, number 10, Mile High copy. That was a consistent trend in this auction that the Mile High copies went for significant premiums. The next early Detective Comics that also had what I'd call a pretty significant sale was issue 18. This is a very in-demand cover. This is 7.5. I had it going for $23,000. Prior record was $20,315. Went for $34,800. We'll look at the pricing on this one too, so you kind of see my justification for that pricing. I mean, here we had the Billy Wright pedigree copy sell 4 years ago for $12,000. We had a 6.5 sell 2 years ago for $15,600. We had a 3.0 go for $6,235. I mean, this book sold for 3 times what the Billy Wright pedigree copy sold for 4 years ago. Like, this was a big sale for this book. And it even got another bid in the live. This one had bid up quite a bit in the pre-bidding, and it got one more bid in the live. And I believe that's the bid that ended up taking this book home. All right, so we talked about the pre-Batman Detective Comics. Now let's talk about some of the ones that actually have Batman in them. Batman on the cover, some of those cool key Batman books. We didn't have a 27 here, didn't have a 29, 31, 33, but there was a 38, that first appearance of Robin. So the 38 went for $72,000, right in line with what I thought this one would go for. I had it going for $75,000, 4% below my estimate. Again, close enough, but solid sale, beautiful copy of this book. Now, one that I felt went on the lower side was issue number 37. This is just, it's a stunning looking copy of this book. An 8.0, I had this one going for $50,000. Went for $34,800, 30% below my estimate. So I say, like, there always, to me, there are deals, and there are outstanding exceptional sales, and there are the books that go right around what you think they're going to. And I felt like this was a pretty good deal. A pre-Robin Detective Comics in a very fine grade, $35,000. That felt like a great pickup to me. All right. Now, let's look at some of these. There are some of these other ones that there are a couple that had some really big sales. The one that really stood out to me was Detective Comics 47. I've seen this a few times recently with Heritage. There's definitely people that are trying to get these VF range copies of these books. This is Tech 47. There's nothing really significant about it other than it's great. It's 7.5. I had this copy going for $5,500. Prior record was 2,150. Went for 13,200. 140% over my estimate. Now let's take a look. And we'll take a look at this one, Detective Comics number 47. And just kind of look at that pricing. I mean, this was the one. It was actually the same book. That's funny. I didn't realize that before this. This is the one that back in January had this sale that just blew me away. 19,200 for a 7.0. Now we had the 7.5 go for 13,200, which is still to me extremely high. But that's why, because I mean, you look at these like a Promise Collection 6.5 went for 2,400. We had this one, this March 4.5, it went for 4,200, which I think was a result of this big sale for the 7.0. But definitely the person who was probably competing for this one that lost, I wouldn't be surprised if they're the one that won this one. And they ended up getting the nicer copy for less money. So that's always the risk, you know, when you're going in there and you're trying to buy a book that hasn't sold for a long time and you pay that big premium, another one might come up for sale. In this case, one did. It sold for $6,000 less. I still think this is a huge number for this book, but definitely, you know, a deal compared to the 7.0 that went for 19,200. All right. Talked a lot about Detective Comics. Talked a lot about Batman. Let's move on to one of the biggest sales of the entire auction. This was the book that was on the cover of the advertisement booklet for this auction, for this collection. This is Double Action Comics number 2. This is one of those books that I just had almost no idea what this book was going to sell for. I mean, it was anybody's guess. It was going to be 2 people or 3 people or whatever competing. And just whenever somebody decided to give up, that's what the book was going to go for. I thought maybe 50,000. Just, you know, with this book, you're buying rarity. Like, it's like, what does rarity cost? And in this case, rarity cost $132,000. I mean, I put 50,000, but it's one of those where it's like, it's not going to shock me if it breaks 100,000. And it did, you know, 132,000. And it's just one of those books that if you want to put together that complete collection, this is one of the hardest ones to get. The complete DC collection is one of the hardest books to get. I think there's only 7 universals on the census. There's 2 graded higher than this one, and they just never come up for sale. And so huge number. This was not one of the books that I had estimated that would break 100 grand in my kind of like official estimates. And it clearly went through that. So Double Action Comics number 2, 7.0, $132,000. Major sale for that book. Now there was another big book that sold immediately after that. We had the Flash Comics number 1 and a 5.0. This one, I was right on with this one. I had this one going for 175,000, went for 174,000. Record was 192. So it wasn't a new record for this book, but was a, you know, to me, a strong sale. I mean, a significant sale, like going right where I thought it would. It meant that the demand was there for this book. 174,000. Flash Comics number 1, 5.0. Even has the little note on there. You know, I know some people think that these notes sometimes hurt the book. They generally really don't. Small amount of dried glue on the spine of cover. If you're wondering how you get that and it's not a purple label, you can have small amounts of color touch, small amounts of dried glue, especially in Golden Age books, and they won't get the purple label. With the glue, usually the rule means that the glue isn't doing anything. It's not like the cover's reattached from the glue. It's not sealing a tear or anything like that. It's just some leftover glue that's on there. Maybe it was doing something at one point, but it's not anymore. And that's how it can still get that universal grade, even though it has that little note there on the book. All right. Couple books I'm going to jump up to that just, I was watching these and both of these sales were huge. First one is Green Lantern number 1. We had a 7.5 sold for $48,000. Prior record, 13,623. Let's jump over to GPA just to look at this one. This sale was massive. I don't know, maybe James Gunn effect, something going on there with this one and the next one that we're going to talk about. But I mean, obviously hasn't sold for a long time. Last 7.5 sold for 9,560 in 2012. But I mean, look at this. A 7.0 just 4 years ago went for 17,700, 5.5, 15,600. This 5.0 is a big sale, 21,000. But then look at this 4.0 going for 10,000. But yeah, I thought this book was going to go for 24,000. That was my estimate for this one, and just blew those numbers away. I mean, the bidding on this one just kept going. 48 grand for Green Lantern #1 in a 7.5. Next book, this one. I mean, I don't even know. Like, there just must have been two people that really, really wanted this book. 28,800 for an 8.5 Green Lantern #3. I mean, we'll look at the pricing for it. This is one that I mean, that's what can happen with auctions. Sometimes you just get two people or three people or whatever who are just like, no, I'm going to keep bidding. I want this book. I'm not going to give it to this other person. I mean, look at an 8.5, 2018, it sold for $7,200. That's only 6 years ago, right? A 6.5 went for $3,600 in June. This is an 8.5, just 2 grades higher, went for $28,800. I had it going for $7,200. I thought it would go for around the same price. When you look at these other books, they've generally been kind of flat in the other grades. And so just a massive sale. It was almost the record for for the book across all grades. Almost hit the Edgar Church price, $33,460. But yeah, I mean, just a monster sale for this one. It's a cool cover. I mean, the black cover is cool. It's like the World War II theme on it. The Nazi soldiers getting punched by Green Lantern. Man, 28,800. That was a beast of a sale for that one. We had another one right after that I wasn't expecting this one to go for as much as it did. I wasn't really going to talk about this one, but it's a 9.4, but it's a conserve grade. It was cover cleaned. You know, maybe somebody thinks they can resubmit and not get rid of the cover cleaning designation. That could be the reason, because I had it going for $1,900. You know, like it's a nice way of calling it restored. You know, it's a restored book. And so I thought it was going to get hit a lot more on the price for it, and just crush my estimate. So I don't know, maybe someone's going to try, like I said, maybe someone's going to see if they can, get rid of the cover clean designation. I don't know, but yeah, pretty solid sale for that Leading Comics #1. Now, next we had one of the other big first appearance books that was in this auction. We had More Fun Comics #52. Beautiful copy. 6.0. Went for right around what I had it going for. I had it going for 125,000, went for 132,000. Then 6% over my estimate. Just stunning book, rare book, first appearance of the Spectre. And yeah, just not a book you see come up for sale very often, and especially not in this type of grade. This was one of the books that I had estimated going over 100,000 and went over 100,000. Now I'm going to jump up to the string of Mile High pedigree copies that came up for sale. These books, whew, man, just unbelievable sales on these. And that's why I say that when you hit that top of census and you've got a Mile High book, the sky can kind of be the limit on them. It's just who wants to pay for it, because it's not like these are keys. You know, it's not the first appearance of some character or anything like that. It's just kind of like a fun cover. It went for $66,000. I had this one going for 25,000. Went for 66. But again, these don't shock me. Like, these numbers don't really shock me, because it's going to go for what it goes for. But let's just move through these. Next one went for 15,600. I had this one going for 15,000. This one didn't get that huge premium. It's not as high of a grade though. I don't know if this is top of census. Let's check. 1 and 8, 5, none higher. So it is top of census, but it's not that 9.4, 9.6 type of grade. The next one though, got a 9.0, $84,000. I had this one going for 15,000 as well. You know, similar to the last one, but for whatever reason, this was the one that a couple people must have decided they really wanted it. Maybe two people were missing this from their collection. They needed this one to complete their run. 84,000, just destroyed my estimate for this one. I think this is the biggest outsized sale from what I thought it might go for. I mean, 460%. Not even close. Like, not even close. All right, we'll keep moving. Now we had one of the biggest sales of the entire auction. It's a cool cover. This is probably the coolest cover of all of these, in my opinion. You know, the gold shark, 9.6 white pages, 168,000. This is another one that I didn't have going over 100,000. I had it at 65,000, but I did have this one bolded. This is one that I definitely thought could easily go for more. I wasn't expecting 168,000, but it's not like it's a shock. Like a couple people really wanted it. Edgar Church, Mile High, 9.6 white pages, 1938, and it just kept going. Serious bidding on that one. We have one more. I think we have one more. Yeah. Then we had issue 28, 9.4 went for 66,000. I had this one going for 25,000. Again, just crushed my estimates. So you see here, like, I mean, the covers, like, there's no like key designators. Like the covers are just kind of like these action type covers, C covers, that kind of stuff. But when you've got the top of census, Mile High, Rarity, you never know what you're going to get with some of these, some of these numbers. All right. I appreciate you sticking with me. I'm talking about a lot of books, but I figure, some people might want to hear about how these different books performed, how this auction performed, what some of the big deals were, what some of the big record sales were. I'm actually going to jump up to what I felt like I really think this is another one of the best buys of the auction. And it was one of the biggest books too. It was one of the books I thought was going to go well over 100,000, and it didn't even break 100,000. I mean, if I had the money, I would have bought this book. No question. Superman #1, 80 A3, $81,000. I mean, color touch pieces added, tear seals reinforced. All these things. Now maybe, I don't know, maybe other people had a closer look at it. They knew this couldn't be undone or something, but all those things in theory could be undone. And a beat up, destroyed 0.5 Superman #1 is still going to go for 90,000. Like if it's complete, like this, I have to think even if this stuff was removed, this book would be better than a 0.5. And so I think that this was just one of the big deal buys of this auction. I had it going for 175,000. This one was 54% below my estimate. Like I said, I absolutely, like if I had the money, I would have bought this book. I think that this was just a steal. It is a stunning copy, and it has the potential to be a universal copy. And universal Superman #1s are very rare. And if this could hold like a 2.5 or a 2 or something, I mean, you've got a book that's $200,000. So yeah, like this felt like just the steal to me. Big steal. So like I said, I want to talk about that because I want to talk about those, what I felt like were deals out there, as well as the books that were, big sales. All right. Now, one book, I just figured I'd talk about it because this is one of those things that I think it's unfortunate. I don't like seeing this type of thing, but here we've got Superman #13. This is a 90 white pages. It sold for 14,400. So it's a nice looking book, but there is a problem. There's a couple things. One, I don't know what's going on here. This is not in the notes, and it feels like a pretty big tear kind of chip on the front of the cover. That's not my main problem. My main problem with this one is on the back. If you look at the back, bottom left corner, I can almost guarantee you that this book was damaged after it was graded. This is in the picture on the CGC page too. I checked. So this is not in the notes. The notes talk about this little chip down here and a couple other like some spine wear type things. This is a big tear. This is like a 1/2 inch tear, and it looks like it almost tore it off. I don't know if this is when the book was put back in a bag before it was slabbed, if it was done when it was slabbed, but I think this makes this book like a 7 to a 7.5. And if you look at Superman #13, and we look at a 7 to a 7.5, it's like a $3,000 book. A 9.0, 14,000. That's the difference. You know, like 1.5 grades, 1 to 1 or to 2 grades, $11,000. So yeah, I don't like seeing this. I do not like seeing what to me appears to be a book that was damaged during the grading process. But that's what I talk about with the risk of getting books graded. I am all for grading, but you are taking a risk sending them there. Now they graded thousands of these books. So this is one that I saw. You know, I just happened to see this, and yeah, it's one of those things that's unfortunate, but I can guarantee you this is not a 9.0. Not now. It probably was before, but with that, it isn't. And it's not shipping damage. Like I said, it's in the picture on CGC's site. This is the other problem I have. Like, I don't know what's going on there. Like, I don't know if that was missed or what, but you can see like there's like a little bit of color lift. There's like spine wear. Like that's the 9.0 stuff. You know, it's like the little bit of spine wear, the little chip that was on the back. Like, but these two things, like this thing here, and especially this, it's not a 9. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, there's, yeah, I mean, the grade, it says 9, right? So that's always the challenge there, right? Like, and that's the problem. Like, you aren't supposed to have to be able to grade a book to buy a graded book. That's the whole point, right? But yeah, this is just an unfortunate situation with this one, in my opinion on it. All right, now I want to talk about, jump to some Wonder Woman books. We're getting close to the end here. There were some pretty big Wonder Woman sales. That was definitely something that surprised me. Like, I've generally been seeing Wonder Woman books, Golden Age Wonder Woman books, going down. Here we had a 9.0 Wonder Woman number 5. I had this going for 5,500. Went for 12,000. White pages again. I mean, those white pages just were killing it in this auction. And we had Wonder Woman number 6, 7.5. Off-white to white pages. First appearance of Cheetah. I love this cover. It's a great cover. It's going for 9,500. Went for 16,200. Prior record was 13,200. Crushed that record too. Strong sale for that one. Then we had number 7. I had this one going for 11,000. 22,800. Prior record was 10,800. White pages again. Just like I said, just killing it. White pages just killing it with these books. Now the next book, I didn't understand this one. Now, I know that there's significance to this book, but that's why I priced it where I did. This is an 8.0 of Wonder Woman 37. I priced this book at $6,500. Sold for 26,400. I was watching this. I was just like, I don't know what's going on. I didn't understand this one. Like, let's look at this. So Wonder Woman number 37, and this is one of the top 3 copies. You know, it's not top of census, so it's 2 and 8.0, 1 higher. It's a high grade copy, but it's not top of census. If you look at Wonder Woman number 37, and you know, it's maybe a couple of people building that one, like want to have that, you know, the best collection of Wonder Woman books, like that could be it. But it's like 6.0 went for 3,000. A 7.5 went for 9,000 back in 2021. So it's like comic boom period went for 9. A 7.5 went for 9,000. I'm always hesitant with these types of sales, like the ones that are in the comic boom period, if they can really be sustainable. But I mean, a 5.0 went for $960 just in September. But then an 8.0 went for 26,400. I mean, just huge. I mean, a huge sale for that book. Now, the last few books I'm going to talk about are some Silver Age books that just closed out this session. There were 6 books that were Silver Age that closed out this auction. First one was Batman number 121. First appearance of Mr. Freeze. $8,100. I had it going for $7,500, 8% within my estimate. I mean, not a record. Prior record was $10,800. Nice looking book. Solid sale, reasonable sale for that one. Then we had the first appearance of the Penguin in the Silver Age, 9.0 white pages. I had this one going for $3,600, went for $4,200. So strong sale for that one. Not the record either. Record was $6,235. That's definitely something you will consistently see with Silver Age. Silver Age, those hit huge records in the comic boom period, and they have retreated significantly. Not the same necessarily with the Golden Age. Next, we had a Detective Comics 228. I thought this one was going to go for a lot more. Prior record was $9,600. Now, that prior record was when that was the single highest graded copy. This made it so that there were 2 in 9.2, none higher. So that's maybe one of those big impacts there. If you had the single highest graded copy, someone paid $9,600 for it pretty recently. And now, like, I had it going for $8,500. I figured it would drop some, but I didn't think it would drop that much. But this is 42% below my estimate, went for about half of that last big sale. Then we had Detective Comics 298 and a 9.0 first Silver Age appearance of Clayface. I had this one going for $5,800, went for $5,280. Again, right around what I thought it would. Then we had a Showcase number 4, first appearance of Barry Allen, Silver Age Flash, 6.5. I had it going for $38,000, went for $38,400. Again, right around where I thought it would. Really solid looking copy of this. Great colors on this one. Then, last book that sold. Showcase. Number 17, 8.0. I had this going for $10,500. Prior record was $14,400. Sold for $16,800. Beat my estimate by 60%. So closed out pretty strong with Silver Age books in this auction. So let me know what you think. Appreciate it if you stuck with me throughout this video. I've been talking for like almost an hour now, but there were a lot of books, a lot of big sales. There were some deals out there. There was that, that Superman that I feel like is really unfortunate. But I mean, overall, like I said, beat my estimates for session 1 by about 17%. $3.88 million in session number 1 for 194 books. Just over $20,000 per book on average in this session. Session number 2 right now is sitting at $445,000 for the remaining books that are in this auction. So I'd estimated session 2 would go for $857,000. So from now it's got to about double, and that's not impossible to happen, definitely. So we'll see how session 2 ends up doing, what the big sales are, what the deals are. I'll talk about that in a future video. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments. Did you pick up any books? Were you bidding in this auction? What did you think about the books that were sold here? Just some of the incredible stuff, the big sales for the Mile High books, everything. It was a fun auction to watch. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one.